Hey, I've got a story to tell you, and those that know me pretty well know that I can't just tell a story. I got to tell 3 or 4 and tie them all together. I don't know what's wrong with me, but that's the way my brain thinks. So years ago, I had a heart attack, and I hadn't been to Africa in a while to check up on our work. And my boss, Billy Bope from Knox, Indiana, I think had a pretty good game plan for me to go to Uganda and check up on about 4 or 5 of our projects. And so I set off to do that, and for probably, well, at least not very many times I've been over there, 20-some times. I think maybe only once or twice have I ever been without a team. This was one of those times. I didn't have a team. And we went way up country to Addy, as far north as Eddy, which isn't far from South Sudan. And on the way back around on the trip checking projects, I got deathly sick, and we had to cut our trip short. One of the main places we wanted to go to was Eddy Reber house in Kintogwe, Uganda, and I got sick in the hospital, so we couldn't go. So really, it was a life and death type situation. I got home and reminisced about some things. And one of the things that happened while I was over there is Dianna was, we weren't Skyping, but whatever, we were doing video probably, on WhatsApp. We were videoing, and she was with our neighbors, the Hardens. And as they were chatting, or as we were chatting, the guys that I was with, Ivan, Joan, and the team, they got the interaction with Wes and Melissa, the Hardens. And they hit it off. We ended up having like a daily discussion. We had a lot of good times. Well, when we came home, they sent some gifts to Wes. If you've ever seen Wes, he's like 6'6". He's like a giant. And they just found him extremely interested. They wanted to send him a gift. So anyway, they sent some gifts back, and I think Wes felt the same way. He wanted to give them some gifts. So he wanted us to get some dresses and some clothes and things and send it to the people he had talked to when I was in Africa. Well, the shipping cost from over here is just tremendous. So it didn't make sense, but he still really wanted to do it. So I said, now wait a minute. For the money it's going to cost us to send a few clothes, we could actually buy each one of the people you're talking about a sewing machine and some material. They can make their own clothes, and when they're done, they have a business. Now I'm into self-sustainability, and I'm loving this. And Melissa said, let's do it. So we did it, and it made a big difference. It actually was, by accident, or however you want to say that, it ended up being a big blessing. Behind me, you can see this. I've been gardening, and it's, my son's in Minneapolis today, and I think it's snowing. They had like 10 inches of snow a couple of days. I got tomatoes behind me up to my waist. So I'm thinking gardening, and I know there's this verse in the Bible that says some plant, some water, and God gives the increase. Well, my story is about that, about how God connects dots, and he has a big picture. We don't understand what that is, but he's orchestrating using all kinds of things. We can't see the big picture till it's finished. And you look back and you're like, oh, no wonder. Well, I get back and I'm talking to our pastors from when we were in Kansas City before we moved down here to B County, Texas. But anyway, as I'm talking to them, I'm telling them the story, and I mentioned I felt bad because I didn't get to visit Eddy Reber house. That means that Wes and Melissa didn't get to visit with them, and they weren't in this other thing that we did. So I felt kind of bad. And then the truth is, I kind of adapted the idea from Valentine's wife named Unice, because he had sent some pictures that she had got a sewing machine and was making their own clothes for it's not an orphanage because they're kids, but they've raised 40-some kids. They've done like 10 church plants. My boss, Billy Bope, and Global Impact, we've been working with them for years. The Bennetts in Kansas City have. Loads and loads of our friends in Kansas City has been there. It's a great thing, a great place, and they do great work. They do a lot of planting for the Lord. And I just felt bad for them that they didn't get any of that blessing with the sewing machines. And so Vicki says, well, maybe we could do something like that too. They were having a women's meeting and my wife was going up. And so all of us together kind of threw some flyers together. And they just the last couple weeks, Dianna and I went to Kansas City, went to the barn, AKA Kansas City Christian Fellowship, Todd and Vicki Bennett and the crew. We spent a lot of years there, went to Africa, been all over the world really with them, their crew. And so anyway, the women did a fundraiser along with their spring meeting and raised enough money to get machines for Unice. And somewhere in the beginning, I talked to her and told her, you know, money's drying up on this side. Things are getting rough. I mean, the price of eggs and stuff has just been nuts in this country. So you can see the writing on the wall. Things are going to get tough. They need to be more self-sustainable. And sewing machines, we've been sending money in for a long time, a year or two probably, for a widow and orphan project on the side. And a little bit of money, not much, but a little bit to help the 10 church plants that they've done since we knew them. They just had one little church and lived in a 12 by 12 dung hut when we first met them. And so they've come a long way. And I was saying to her, you're like, hey, could you train a couple of the widows to sew and take a couple of your kids, maybe that don't have aspirations for university or going on to some huge thing? You know, you got a couple girls that would love to follow in your footsteps and minister to the poor and sew and like you do. And she said, absolutely, I'll do it. I said, well, you run the project. Not your husband's got enough irons in the fire. He runs all kinds of projects. He runs a mill, he runs a business, and plus overseeing 10 church plants. He's a busy guy. So you run it, it's yours. Don't let anybody interfere. Let God use you. And she said yes. So today, I got a little thank you video from her. She's embarrassed to try her English, even though it's really good. She's embarrassed to do it, so she's speaking in Luganda. And so after I get done here, you'll hear hers. But I just want to encourage everybody that, you know, what I've seen is God using different people working together and they don't even know each other exist. And it's just like what Paul said, some plant, some water, but in the end, it's God who gives the increase. And there's so much bad news in this world. I love a good story. And I apologize for spending 8 minutes telling a bunch of extra stuff, but I can't help it. It's what I do. I'm a storyteller and I can't tell one. I got to tell 2 or 3 altogether. All right? All right, well, enjoy the rest of the video. It's good fruit for you that gave, especially Todd and Vicki and you guys in this round, and all the what they call the barn sisters, all you ladies. God bless you, and thank you so much for giving and helping and praying, especially in Jesus' name. All right, bye.
My name is Unice Baliruno. From Katogwe. I'm so glad for this moment, for the great thing that God has done. I've been in need because of this sewing machine. Because I have been having one sewing machine. But sometimes we could prefer to sew, but due to shortage of other sewing machine, we could not cope with the condition. And I took a moment to ask God, telling him to have something to do for me, so that I can purchase some sewing machines. But I thank God for answering my prayer, because now I've got sewing machines. And I thank even for the people that God has used this work to provide unto us, also has to have something to do. My God bless you. I love you so much. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to teach all young kids to know how sewing is, so that also they can learn. Because most of the times, especially girls, they have many needs without works to do of income. But I believe in the name of Jesus Christ that due to this work I'm going to start, they will start achieving something and solve their problems. And even the widows, also them that have been in need. They need some soap, sugar, yet we could not have any solution. We don't have earning jobs. Family. I thank God for Pastor John Gross together with the whole team that God has used it to complete this work. I pray that my God bless you and let Him do you well. And I wish that we shall have a time and we meet together. I'm so glad for that.